Welcome to New Home Insights, the podcast from John Burns Research Consulting. I'm your host, Dean Worley. If you want to follow market trends, demographics, capital, new ideas, and endeavors that touch on housing, we're going to try to make sense of that every couple of weeks. Let's go. Hello, everyone. I'm Dean Worley for the New Home Insights podcast. In our last episode, we had Stephanie McCarty from Taylor Morrison Homes join us to talk all things sales and marketing from a home builder perspective. I wanted even more of that. I hope you, the listener, do too, because today we're going to go back into the sales and marketing tactics and strategies and all that fun stuff, but we're going to do it a little differently, not just a different perspective in terms of a different builder, but a different perspective in terms of a private builder. So today we have Caroline Simmel. She's the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing for the Georgia and Tennessee regions at Empire Communities. Empire is a Toronto-based builder, one of the biggest private builders in the country, huge Sunbelt footprint that stretches, I believe, from Carolinas through Texas, and of course also in the very non-Sunbelt Toronto and Southwest Ontario area. But I'll let Caroline tell you a little bit more about that in just a second. First, Caroline, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on.
I'm really glad to be here. So I do want to, we'll ask a lot of the similar questions, not all, but similar questions that if you listened the last episode, but I think we'll get a very different perspective on some of those. So let's start though with you, Caroline. Give us a little bit about your background and also with Empire Communities.
Sure. Well, I have been with this company almost 17 years. We started out as Edward Andrews Homes, an Atlanta-based company. We grew into, we started with 12 homes in 2007. We grew into close to 500. And then we merged with Empire back in 2018. It's been fantastic. They're wonderful partners, and it's really been seamless, the whole experience.
So they're a Canadian firm. Should we be drinking some Molson Ale right now as we do this?
Yes.
Are some Moosehead perhaps? Are some Labatt Blue, Big Rock, Red Racer IPA, and my favorite, La Fin du Monde, which means end of the world. Did I Google Canadian beers? It's very possible that I did to get all those.
I love it. Well, and it's a family-owned and operated company, and they're Italian, so we're more into the finer red wines.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm with you there too. I'm either way. I like red wine and IPA. So let's start. Let's start with one of the big questions, one of those just kind of holistic questions about sales and marketing, which is, what is, in your opinion, the difference between sales and marketing?
Well, there is a difference. There are two distinct but very closely related functions that work together with the ultimate goal of enhancing the customer experience and driving revenue. But that said, it's two distinct skill sets. So, but it's a productive degree of collaboration between the two skill sets. And it's really a departure from the old school way in home building where it's them against us against them. I need more traffic, I need more sales, finger pointing, all of that. We at Empire have merged the two departments, but in a very intentional way. And what we call it sales enablement. But again, marketing, simply put, marketing brings certainty through content and strategy, and sales bring the motivation to make the purchase, the change.
Okay. And so there would be those internal things. I mean, not at Empire and not at Edward Andrews, but so like the sales folks will go, hey, bring us more folks, we can sell more homes. And the marketing folks would be like, well, you need to complete the sale. That kind of antagonism, that's not the right word, but that kind of tension went on.
Right. Well, it's just really old school. And, our corporate marketing team also complements us very well. They're really the center of excellence for the brand. They support us in all the tech enhancements we need, CRM functions, consumer insights, surveys, Google reviews and such. But again, to be very simply put, our sales team is a highly trained, highly motivated, goal-oriented discipline, really with the platform of guiding our customers through their home buying journey. Whereas the marketing piece is the strategy, providing those incredible sales platforms in which to sell. And again, we're constantly evolving. Nothing is static in this, but at the end of the day, we work very closely together. And, we're fused into one sales enablement team, albeit with different skill sets.
Okay. Let me ask you this question at kind of the 30,000 foot level, and then I'll bring it down to something you're doing more specifically in Atlanta just right after. But the first question is, so when you're designing that sales and marketing campaign, what in your mind are those key factors you need to hit on every time?
Well, so each project has its own unique strategy. So I say it's all of the above, from product, market factors, pricing. It's a complex layering of strategy. It's not just one size fits all. And it's no longer a build it and they will come or my gut tells me mentality. We really need the science and the data before we create the art. But that said, after our lab work, we conduct a summit with our sales team, and together marketing and sales present the marketing strategy together. So we're not working in silos. We're working closely together. And I think what's important, so there's market strategy on the front end, but then there's the critical feedback loops as you go through the sales cycle of the community to keep it fresh, pull levers where needed. And, Dean, we've had the most volatile markets in the last, even since COVID. The swings are probably more wild than we had swings during the Great Recession. So price volatility has replaced the classic oversupply issue. We're leaning into more buy downs, flex cash. We've never led with incentives before ever. And now we are. Ready now inventory took a front seat. So things are constantly changing. And that's where we need to understand that our marketing strategy is also evolving. And that's the team and the people behind it, constantly not monitoring, it's analyzing and asking the whys. So that's the key.
In Atlanta specifically, a part of the area that you cover, you're doing something a little bit different now, I understand, and sort of changing the ways how you bring that sales and marketing together with other key parts of the process, like lending, design. Tell us about that.
So we call it home base. And again, it's not one size fits all. It's within our urban core of Atlanta, our urban portfolio of properties. We were, and again, this is where marketing and sales differ. Marketing was in the lab for years with this concept before we rolled out this platform to sales. But essentially, home base is sales, lending, design, and closing all under one roof for multiple communities in the area. So let's say you have 10 urban infill communities. I would have 10 to 15 agents working those communities, all providing a different customer experience. Now with home base, it fuses it all together, and it's 3 agents selling the 10 plus communities. And again, it's changed the way real estate is sold in Atlanta's urban core, but it's made the customer journey so streamlined and so easy. And it's just been a huge success. But again, you need the people, you need the land and lot pipeline. It's not just, Bing, here we go.
How do you handle the logistics of that? You have fewer people covering as many communities. Does that, you have to be somewhere, you have to be multiple places. Does it ever become an issue just logistically?
No, it hasn't. And the way, the data, Dean, 98% of the process is done online, the due diligence process, really the discovery process. We do have a model park within a mile radius of home base, which features our entire portfolio of products in urban Atlanta. So, we're becoming an Uber-like model for that on-demand access. Like you test drive a car. You don't necessarily need to do it with an agent. And again, these are high-density infill products, so the attainability factor comes in. So it's a huge attraction for consumers today. And by the way, it's a lifestyle-driven proposition where, I don't know if you've heard of Atlanta's Beltline, but it's a 22-mile stretch of multi-use trails that connect neighborhoods throughout the city. And that's where we're building. So it's just a win-win across the board. And on the other side, you don't have all the cross trying to create a new experience for every community visited. They come to home base, they get the lens just widens on the probabilities where they can live in Atlanta. So
I imagine that might be a little more difficult, though, to implement in a more suburban, or even an exurban location where things are a little more spread out.
yeah, absolutely. And that's why, we do it in some capacity in some of our suburban markets where we'll have a portfolio of communities within, a 2-3 mile radius of each other, because we have a design center that supports that sales platform that, and being really a by appointment only driven company with a very strong OSC program, online sales program, and the fact that, we have the on-demand access to our models and specs, it really creates a great environment for the customer to make decisions without having an agent breathe down their neck.
There is that. I think we're going to be talking about that, and we'll talk about with you here in just a few minutes too about the whole sales agent experience. So let's get to that in a minute. First of all, I want to talk about kind of marketing big picture. What is Empire's kind of their main argument why you, the potential home buyer, should buy an Empire home?
So we work very hard at being a lifestyle-driven company. And so it's not only our land and lot positions, but, we build, and we match it with high functional, purpose-driven design as well. But we're building basically where the action is. We're not building, out in the suburbs, large 5,000 square foot homes. We're doing a lot of medium and high density infill projects. We're doing a lot of mixed use projects that have really emerged, at least in the Southeast, as a very desirable place to live. And then when we do our 55 plus move down, what we call our boomerhood projects, that's also lifestyle driven. And we make sure that we're close to trail systems and activity centers. And I mean, Burns told me a long time ago that trails are the number one amenity, and I believe it because we're living it every day.
Yeah, trails are huge. Let's not sleep on dog parks, though. I'm a huge fan of dog parks. Big fan. I've seen dog parks. I saw a dog run on a mid-rise urban building, and they just sort of carved out kind of a quasi balcony, if that's the right word, and they put some fake grass in there, and there's a beautiful dog run.
That is so cool.
Extremely popular.
What was it on, the New Home Trend Summit? I heard 80% of homeowners have a dog or multiple dogs.
It's a huge number. It's a huge, very high number.
Huge.
Yeah. It's huge. It's one of the biggest reasons that BTR built to rent has an advantage over apartments. It's just your pet lives a lot better life with a backyard than not. Yeah.
Absolutely. They're royalty.
How do you communicate those key reasons though to the buyer? When you're marketing, when you're setting up a sales campaign, is it like we have the best locations, we have the best design? What are those critical factors you're communicating?
Yeah, and again, especially if you look at our urban infill portfolio, it's a very diverse persona. I mean, you've got everybody from young single professionals, professional couples, older singles, move down, coming out of their homes in the suburbs. I mean, it's just an array of different targets. So how do we attract them? First of all, we know we're constantly evolving, so nothing is static. We happen to have an amazing marketing team and group of outside consultants that are constantly pushing the boundaries on really understanding our buyer. And then it's all about, it's not traffic at any cost anymore, it's engagement. And that is the key, is how we engage and how then we analyze it and the whys they're engaging. And then to augment all of this, we have a very strong online sales platform that are the first touch point with all of these leads and customers that come into our funnel.
How will you decide the where to build? You're fairly attractive. It sounds like you're kind of central city. Are you looking at, look, here's where the jobs are, here's where the growth is? Are those just those classic factors are overarching?
Yes, of course. I think our niche is really where the activity is, where that lifestyle driven place is. And we have Atlanta's Beltline. So that's probably the number one. And look, these deals in infill Atlanta, they're not easy. They're hard. You don't see a lot of public builders in this space. Again, they've got a lot of hair on them. You're looking for higher density. So that's been one of our niches. Another niche is mixed use. We've got incredible relationships with some of the local municipalities that want a builder like Empire in a mixed use project. And again, high growth suburban markets to serve that empty nester active adult buyer.
Would you ever try to cluster land buys together specifically for your home base? Like, yeah, you know what? The suburban area, we have one or two things there. Let's see if we can go get 4 or 5 more right in that a very close by proximate area so we can do this kind of home base scenario there. Would you ever consider that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I brag on our land team. Our land team is probably the best in the country. I mean, led by Paul Corley, who's our company president, and this is in his DNA. We call him the dirt guy, and absolutely, we find a high growth area, and we're going after every blade of grass in that area.
Nice.
So, yep, absolutely.
Tell me if you can answer this, because I know it'd be a little bit circumspect with respect to actual numbers and metrics. But is there kind of a targeted absorption rate, a sales pace that you kind of will want to hit in a given project or even a market before you go in there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a dynamic we look at. We really look 5 years ahead, and we look at every community. And I'm a big believer in, crystal ball's broken, so it's really hard to predict. But yeah, you want turn, you want inventory turns, you want pace. You also want margin. So it's a balancing act, and I can't just put a number on it per community. It just depends on what the financial model looks like, and what we're trying to achieve in the project.
Okay. Have you ever sort of signed off, like, you know what, within your region anyway, we don't want to be in that market, or even left a market?
Oh, sure. We have our no-go markets, our sub-markets in Atlanta for sure. We have, but that said, we've been very successful overall in Atlanta, but it's again, sticking to our knitting, doing what we do well in these high growth, whether it's urban infill, mixed use, or high growth suburban markets. That's always been, and Dean, I mean, just on another scale, I mean, asset classes are going up and down and changing. Yeah. And, there's a lot of opportunity for land that was once maybe old office or, just old retail, that's all shifting too. So there's plenty of opportunity out there, and it's just knowing where the puck's going.
One of the hot topics, it seems like it's simmered down a little bit, but one of the hot topics a little while ago was the reuse of these now empty or near empty offices. Would you guys consider, or have you done an office conversion to residential?
So it's a mixed bag to say an office conversion. We'll look at land where you can scrape, at least most of it. But yes, we have a couple deals that have been, just have changed from warehouse office to residential. Okay. And, those are in, again, very high growth center of city areas. So great.
But I mean, like those offices where you literally reuse the building, because it's difficult because the floor plates are so funky. It's hard to get residential from office.
That's not our, I know, even through our discussions through my ULI council and such, that's a big topic now, but it's not so easy to do.
It's extremely difficult, and people found that out right away, that it just doesn't translate very well.
Right.
It's not a U-shaped office. You're in an office building, you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
What kind of input do you at sales and marketing have on things like product and location? Because, you're the ones who are going to have to target the buyers, et cetera, and sell and market those homes. Do you have immediate input into that process?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, more and more product approval is required as part of the entitlement process. So it is harder than in the past to really adjust it if it's not working. So marketing, well, I'm there at go, at, LOI stage and site planning. And we have what's called a collaboration club here. And it's really across departments, land development, our engineers, our marketing teams, we get together, our branding teams, and we get together and really We're very data driven, and we look at, not only, especially the high and medium density, we look at what products, but really we're constantly pushing the boundaries on that. So to answer your question, yes, marketing gets involved from the beginning. I'm a big Burns fan when it comes to New Home Trends Institute. Michaela and I have worked closely together. We study it. Our design team is very involved. So again, product is paramount here. And, so yes, it's absolutely well thought out. And again, medium and high density, especially, it's a jigsaw puzzle. You have to get it right in the beginning. You can't just change it mid-course, through the project. So it's something that's extremely critical to and we've so far, knock on wood, not have had an issue.
I love these plugs, by the way. Just so listener knows, I have never and will never ask any guest or speak with any guest about talking about anything we do. So this is for sure heartfelt from what Caroline is saying.
Oh my gosh. I'm a big New Home Trends Institute girl. I love it.
I'm glad I love it. Will you ever throw your body under the bus that you think is a bad idea? So you think, look, we're talking about doing this kind of product at this kind of location. I am just adamantly against that, and here's why. Will you just really, really, get in the way of something like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have to sell it. So I'm going to say the culture here is amazing. Everybody, you don't want to cast thousands making these decisions, but at the same time, we're, again, very data driven. Okay. Pretty much people understand what's going to work and what's not. But yes, we've been in those situations where certain locations may not work with certain product mixes. So yeah, we respect each other, but there's a lot of very robust debate, I'll say, and it's healthy, and it provides a team health like no other. As far as
I'm glad. I think one of the biggest problems for a lot of folks is that groupthink, where everybody just agrees with every grain, and that's a curse. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What will you ever, or are there any products that you absolutely won't go? You sound like the Empire has a pretty wide breadth of product types. Is there something you guys won't do?
So, where we build, we're not going to do, obviously, the 5,000 square foot plus custom home in the middle of suburbia. We're also not going to do any podium product, any mid-rises. We have ventured into stacked flats, condominiums. Okay. But typically in our infill locations, we're doing 16, 20, 22-foot townhome product, 3-story. And then we're doing, of course, the stacked flats. And then in suburban markets, we're doing a mix of townhomes and single-family detached.
You mean 16 and 20, 22-foot wide
yes.
floor plans?
Yes.
Okay.
Townhomes.
Can I just say I'm not a fan of 16? I think it's too narrow.
You know what? Come see one of ours. They're incredible. Okay. They sell. That's one of our number one selling plans. They sell like crazy. Yeah. Well, they're attainable. They're they give us the density we need to price them accordingly. Now, I wouldn't build a 16 in a suburban market or suburban even, but on the Beltline, all day long.
Okay. Now let's switch over to media. That's a hot topic as well. What are your kind of go-to media sources when you're going to get that message out? Where do you go to first and most?
So again, we've got an incredible team that is not static and a group of consultants. So I laugh when I think I used to be in meetings where 10 years ago, a lot of home builders didn't even understand even what social media was. But yeah, the paid social platforms, paid search, highly targeted digital strategy, all of that is evolving every day. And again, I can't say there's one platform. It's different for every type of community, but I think we're constantly going with, technology and it's all about engagement, as I said, where, it's not one size fits all, and we're constantly testing and pushing boundaries, really every day.
I think I know the answer to this next one, but I'm going to ask you about newspapers. Even the New York Times is now mainly about Wordle and connections. I feel like that's what I mostly do there. Yeah. Does anyone advertise homes on newspapers anymore? And do you ever?
No, I mean, we're not newspapers, billboards, all of that stuff. Really, it has no, return on investment that we can see. We don't, leads are not generated through those channels at all.
How do you measure your return on investment? Or you even measure, things like eyeballs and stuff like that are actually really attending to your paid media, et cetera?
Yeah, I have a
critical?
whole analytics team, both internal and external consultants along with corporate. We look at that on a day. Really, I call it every 20 minutes. We look at it constantly. We're a big lead gen company. We're going to, 98% by appointment only. The days of walk-in traffic are pretty much over. And that gives us the, a wide lens to really measure, the effectiveness of our campaigns, how many leads we're getting and how they convert into appointments and then ultimately sales. So it's a constant. And we have, again, every 20 minutes, my marketing analysts are looking at this. And through the advent of GA4 and all the, there's just amazing technology today to really look at this. And again, it's not monitoring anymore. It's analyzing, asking the whys, what's happening.
It has, the more stuff that is done online, the more you can accurately measure things. It's not just impressions, it's actual real data. That is a big difference.
Exactly.
How about social media? Are you on, I'm assuming you're on TikTok, you're on Facebook, you're on YouTube, all those social media platforms?
Yes, we're on really everything that works, basically. I'll tell you that. But we get a lot of engagement through in our interactive reels on Facebook and Instagram. TikTok, a lot of us are in the lab on TikTok, but hey, if it works, I'm all for it.
Yeah. I mean, you're not gonna, I asked this from Stephanie last time, but you're not gonna do a dance on TikTok while you talk about the wonderful Empire Homes, but still there is a way to use TikTok, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. And it's, it's growing more and more, and again, if we have this conversation, Dean, a year from now, we may be talking about something totally different, and that's what I think, home builders, we were always this very archaic industry that took a long time to catch up. But I feel like we're really making strides. And, we're providing, through the technology, and we haven't said the word AI, but AI is.
I will.
Okay. Right.
hold off on that. But for TikTok, maybe here's my idea. Use it if you want. You do a makeup tutorial while you talk about Empire Homes. I'm just throwing it out there as a potential. just trying to, best of both worlds.
See how many leads it generates.
You never know. Online sales. So I want to talk about that. And I think here's the second one where I think I know the answer to this, but you see online sales as being just absolutely critical to your future at Empire?
Absolutely. So we have built an incredible OSC program. They are the first line of communication, human communication with our buyers. But again, we've expanded it. Not only are they highly trained, but they tee up these leads, they vet them, they understand true prospects versus tire kickers. They have the trust of our sales team to set very purposeful appointments that end up in sale. I mean, the conversion rates through the ROSC program are incredible. And I think most builders now do have robust OSC programs because that's what customers want. Like we said, they do 98% of their due diligence online. And then with the proper call to actions, they're connected with a human. And frankly, these non-standard hours are now covered with this Uber-like model where they have on-demand or, their questions answered, whether it's 3 a.m, through different technology. And then that voice comes on in the morning, first thing, and calls them back. And it's powerful. And there's data that even supports the fact that if a customer is not called back within the first even 2 minutes they lose them. The chances of them falling off get higher and higher. So
2 minutes? 2 minutes is that?
It's pretty powerful. I mean, I think now it's down to how impatient people are these days.
I know,
if we don't get instant
Lord.
satisfaction, our questions answered instantly, we drop off. I mean, you joke when the computer screen starts spinning, you're turning that computer off, you're trying to restart it. You're not going to wait around. The same thing goes for our society. There's so much noise, and there's so much that goes into, the research. But if they're not getting somebody calling them back within a reasonable amount of time, they're going elsewhere.
You're right. I can work on my hard drive. I can work we have a server. And when I hit save on a large file on a server, it can take a solid 20 seconds to save. And I found myself complaining vociferously about that just the other day. It's like, I can't wait 20 seconds to hit save. That's crazy. So I guess.
Right. No, it is. We're just an impatient bunch.
Okay.
But, we're now, we're also looking at on-demand touring. I mean, access into our models, our specs, on their time. And then they call, it's a web of giving the consumer the questions that they need answered and the information they need to finally make the decision to buy. And again, and that's when you ask first, what's the difference between sales and marketing? Marketing can provide all these platforms and these functions, but, sales has an incredible job of, they're navigating, especially in these days with the economy, they're navigating that tension between dissatisfaction with their current home and the cost and fear of buying a new home. So that's where sales come in. Is marketing can do a million different things to try to put that at rest, that fear factor. But sales is that human connection that's able to navigate the buyer through this not only biggest investment of their lives, but their change in lifestyle.
Yeah. And I think the time factor that you brought up a second ago is critical. I've always thought that, 10 to 5 or 10 to 6 during summer hours, that's just not most folks' schedules.
Right.
But I get it that a sales agent doesn't want to be there. A solo sales agent doesn't want to be there maybe when it's dark. I completely understand that. So being able to show and allow folks to go see on their time is huge. How late will you keep a model available to folks to go and self-tour?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to it. It's not just a model. It's, where you use the touch and feel things, but technology is the ultimate co-pilot. And if you can give them the visualization tools online and, all those things, all those their questions answered to get comfortable, that's when they're going to get up off their couch, off their computer, and come in and walk through a model. I don't think models are going away. There's been a lot of debate on that. I think models are really the tentacles of, our technology and providing that emotional connection for a buyer instead of looking at it on a screen. They're inside touching and feeling and living that space. And I'm very fortunate. I have one of the best team of designers, so we really flex our muscle with that. But again, technology within the models. I mean, there's great marketplace platforms now where they can buy furniture through the model, and duplicate the model. And again, that's a whole different podcast. But I just think we're going at light speed on what we can provide to our consumers and the experience they have. And like I said, if we're talking a year from now, it's going to be a different conversation for sure.
Well, will that future have a role for virtual reality for VR? Because it feels like not only is VR kind of dead, but it may also have killed many people by swapping headsets during the height of a pandemic. Do you see us going back to VR in any big way?
So I love that you said that. I think technology, like I said, is a great co-pilot. It's a great way. And I think there's going to be other areas to really enhance the experience. I think design, that VR component, but it has to be right. I don't think we should overthink this. The whole put on the glasses and all, no one wanted to mess their hair up even before COVID, so it's like, and by the way, I don't want that on my head. It was on someone else's head an hour ago. And,
I don't care how much you cleaned it. It's not enough. I know.
Yeah. And one of my favorite people in the business talks about a race to intimacy with your home buying journey. And I think if we can just get back to basics with, connecting, the human element. That transaction is just so complex, making those connections, walking through a home, touching and feeling it, not where VR, I think VR has its place, but it doesn't take center stage.
Okay.
Just for us. Now, it may for other builders. It's just, it doesn't do that for us.
And maybe when it's better, we always hear about, this next iteration of VR is the revolutionary one, but it has tried and failed at least 3 times now. So we'll see.
Well, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of getting really excited about new technology. And then, you have to take a step back and then look at it. And you certainly don't want to be the guinea pig and spend millions of dollars on something that ultimately does not resonate with your customer. But so again, it's I'm not a conservative person, but you just have to really think it through.
Yeah. AI is something a little bit like that. AI has an extraordinary future. It's already impacting us in huge ways. You're starting to see a little bit of pushback on that in terms of let's calm down. At the end of the day, it's just really sophisticated pattern keeping and pattern recognition. But I'm contractually obligated, as all of us are with our new AR overlords, to ask about AI. Is AI a big part of what you're doing and plan on doing in the future?
So I would say that we're in the lab on it for a lot of things. We have implemented some, and I don't know if you want to call it AI, but the instant texting and the platforms that provide. We're not into chatbots yet. I'm not a big believer in that, but we're certainly giving our customers the information they need. In that off standard hour Uber-like model. So we're starting to dip our big toes in that. But I think AI is, it's coming. I'm looking at a lot of it for, not only sales and marketing, but there's a lot of AI. I mean, just in terms of predictive modeling for underwriting and, really understanding but it's all about the data. It's about the data you have, the data you harness, and then, using that data to do it right. And I think there's a lot of great companies. There's a lot of great startups. And, if I had a crystal ball, I would invest in the ones, because I think at some point they're going to just go be insanely successful. But I think a lot of home builders right now are just looking at it, just from a wider lens. And, but I'm excited. I'm not going to lie. I'm excited about it. I think it's an incredible. I'm on ChatGPT every day. I ask ChatGPT all kinds of questions, and they're always right.
I don't know if always. In my experience, it's been a little less than 100%, but still, it's for sure improving all the time.
Yeah, there's some hallucinations for sure. But.
There are definitely some hallucinations and some no, that's for sure not true. Let's end with a few questions on buyers. I want to end with because that's your bread and butter at the end of the day, of course. So let's first talk about buyer segments. What are those buyer segments that are absolutely critical that is your core buyer at Empire?
So as a data-driven company, we study these buyer segments, personas pretty deeply. Like I mentioned, in our urban core, we have a diverse range of lifestyle seekers, I'll call them. They're spanning from young first-time home buyers to move down seeking enhanced living experiences. I love the life stages. I'm going to mention Burns again, in his decade-born approach. We study a lot of that. We study their unique aspirations and preferences. We've got an incredible design center, which, we're able to capture that data on what people's preferences are. And, there's a tremendous amount of data on, and our buyers, but I think builders can make a mistake to just group them into just certain categories and here's what they are. It's ever changing. It's ever evolving. So, but mostly where we build, it's the, that barbell, where we're looking, at the young professionals, the professional couples, and then the empty nesters. We're going into in Chattanooga that move up family buyer, and I think we're very good at that, but we haven't done that in a minute. So, but again, taking that move up family buyer and not going into the suburbs, but going into high growth suburban markets that are lifestyle driven. And, I think that's where people, especially since the pandemic, lifestyle is a key driver for sure.
To dovetail with AI, by the way, I think AI is one of those, I think buyer segments is one of those areas where AI can be really helpful because it is, again, it's effectively as pattern recognition. And so recognizing how these buyers really hang together is critical. I mean, we think we know as the bourgeois bohemians, whatever, but we're
Right.
much more complex than that. We don't always fall. We're not as easily
Right.
categorizable as folks want to think we are. AI can very much help, I think, accurately categorize us. If that's good or bad, I don't know, but yeah.
We had a design, like an algorithm based style quiz, I'll call it, and we tried to group these, their design tastes into these certain, bourgeois this or coastal this, and it failed. People don't want to be labeled, and no, I'm not that. What do you mean I'm this? So you have to be really careful with labeling.
Well, you're not supposed to tell them.
Right. 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 Exactly.
They're not supposed to know they've been categorized. That's critical.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you know who you're going to target. You understand your buyer and the buyer profile that you think is most likely to buy an Empire home. How do you finally target those folks as much as you possibly can?
Yeah, I think it's not one size fits all. I think we focus a lot on, product, in some instances, price, location, lifestyle, and really it's more a lexicon of, approaches on how we do it. And like I said, we're constantly not monitoring, but analyzing, how our lead gen and our funnel is working on, on seeking those buyers. So it's not just a, hey, we do this and this works. It's a myriad of differences and tactics and strategy that we have that really every project has a unique way of doing it. And I will say, because our land and lots are just in absolutely A+ locations, that's a huge workhorse for us. But we're also more into storytelling and story getting, and we weave a story about the lifestyle, and it's looking into the history of the land, and going through a whole naming convention. And we understand that people really are, when they're moving, they're changing their life. They're coming into a new identity of where they're living and who their neighbors are. And, so it's a complex structure of, how we're telling the story, where we're telling the story, who we're telling the story to. And, from digital to, boots on the ground outreach to, broker outreach. I know there's, I think we're a big believer that despite all the NAR lawsuits, we're a believer that our co-ops do make a difference where they add value. But, we just tell the story really throughout all, influencers, brokers, customers, the whole 9 yards.
You mentioned names a minute ago. What is the coolest marketing name you've ever used for a project?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I love the Swift. That was one of our in town. I love Love Tree.
Love Tree.
Love Tree. We had all of our trades. I'll meet you at Love Tree.
Okay.
But yeah, Love Tree. But again,
that could have been misunderstood, but okay.
But there's a lot of stories behind it. Harlow was our first community that really dug into, the history of the land. There's Harlow, there's Larkspur. We like one word names. We have a master brand, Empire. So Empire Larkspur, Empire Harlow. I don't like, did you ever see that Excel spreadsheet that had community names and it was like the Enclave, the this, the that, it was like that. And then you cross-referenced it to at Mill Creek, at Johns, at all the different creeks. And then you can pull them together. The Enclave Mill at the creek at blah, blah, blah,
Okay. So what was the dumbest name you ever used? Come on.
Oh gosh. So this was before we started really looking at this, and this is early on in the Edward Andrews days, but some person in our company named a community the Promenade just because he thought it was a great name. And that's when you asked me before if I've ever fought tooth and nail.
Okay.
I fought tooth and nail on that one. And that ended up being Harlow, which was one of the most successful communities in Atlanta. So
I think I have seen a promenade. Have you ever got stuck with one? I'm based in Northern California, but I remember seeing a project. It was somewhere else in the country where it was clearly a person's last name and then ranch, right? And it was the last name was, honest to God, it was a string of consonants. It was unpronounceable. So I can't even pronounce it. That name, ranch, for sure the landowner who sold it had some kind of, agreement in the sales agreement. Have you ever been stuck with something like that by the seller?
Yeah. I mean, there's some bad ones out there. I've seen them as well. But the worst ones are always tied to somebody's ego, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was for sure what happened.
Our motto is, can it look good on a hat?
Okay.
Can it look good on a baseball cap?
That's good, because this one would not. I should have asked this question earlier. Can really strong sales and marketing overcome a mistake in terms of, product or location or something like that?
Yeah, the dynamics of that. Wow. So, yes. No. Exceptional talent can sometimes compensate for deficiencies here, but it's not sustainable in the long term. I mean, and then it goes into your reputation as a builder, the trust, the loyalty. I mean, so you need the exceptional marketing to build the awareness and lead gen, but you can't realize the full potential if you've just got it wrong on the product and the place.
Can you do it the other way around? Can you rescue, or can you really kind of mess it up? Can you be Giancarlo Stanton at the Yankees and turn a triple into a single? I apologize for the baseball reference, but can you mess something up that should have been a home run?
I think you see it all the time. I knock on wood, we haven't done that yet or plan on doing it. But yeah, I think, especially in today's underwriting environment, I mean, you're looking at a comp set with replacement costs much lower 4 years ago and trying to match it with today's inflation and supply chain issues and everything else. And, we talk about the fact that deals just don't pencil like they used to. So absolutely you can mess it up. And especially if you have such thin, margins of error, where, so that's something as a company we're very tuned into, especially in today's environment, is that, you don't want to mess it up. And last I checked, we have a major affordability crisis we're dealing with. So again, that velocity and that pace is if that's compromised, then you're messing it up.
So no pressure. Don't mess this up. We're going to end with the lightning round on buyer segments, key buyer groupings. What is like the one thing that enters your mind first when I say the following? So I'm going to go in quick succession through some various buyer segments. Let's start with young singles.
Oh gosh, lifestyle. I want to be where the action's at.
Couples. Does it differ for young couples?
Yeah, I mean, dual income, they can kind of go where, but again, lifestyle driven, we're lifestyle driven. They're not going to go way out into the suburbs and just be them, they want where the action is.
Same with older couples. I'm not saying like retirees or move downs, but like those, 30s, 40s, 50s, dual income kind of couples.
Yeah, they're very discerning. They're most likely moving out of a large home, whether they're empty nesters. There's a mix of some want to be where the action is. Others want to be in a very lifestyle-driven community, but that has great connectivity to trail systems and health and wellness. And, that's one of their huge just bucket list items that they want in there with a new lifestyle. So that's something that, and again, we're very good at that.
Let's go to families, young families first.
So young families, we don't typically build for young families, with the exception of high growth areas close to exceptional schools. but we put that lifestyle component in there for that family. We're not just, the commodity, let's just build a bunch of houses in a neighborhood for young families. It's not about that at all for us. It's more about taking what we're really good at and pivoting over into that young family, but adding those dynamics that do so well for the other buyer groups.
Then this might be moot, but are you selling to mature families?
They're probably a smaller percentage of our mix now. But I see, especially going into Chattanooga, where some of our land and lot positions would cater to some of the mature families.
Okay, so how do you do it? What's your key selling proposition to that mature family in Chattanooga?
Like I said, it's lifestyle, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's creating a sense of place. It's really activating the community. It's again, creating those connections. We opened a community, we call it Social Circle. It's 2 words, but Social Circle in Chattanooga, and the park is the central green. And it talks about, that connectivity, making new friends. And what was funny was we targeted it for that empty nester buyer, kind of like, meet great old new friends kind of thing, or every night is Friday night, it's boomerhood, all the things that we do. But, it's attracted a lot of families.
My last 2 categories, I think you almost answered it already, is empty nesters and retirees?
Yeah, again, lifestyle driven. We've got a community called Heirloom. It's connected to one of the big trail systems in Atlanta. It is out in the suburbs, but very high growth. I'd call it a suburban market. And again, just lifestyle driven. Did I say pickleball? Clubhouse. Where the trailhead is in the clubhouse, and you've got miles and miles of trails with a mountain behind it. Those are the trappings of, just that empty nester lifestyle, boomerhood, we call it, So again, very intentional about that.
I was going to say, the cohesiveness of your answers actually makes sense. Your brand is lifestyle. So you kind of thread that through all these segments in different ways, but certainly it gets threaded through.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, Caroline, thank you so much. I'm so glad you could join us here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And this has been fun, like you promised.
I was hoping so. I like to have fun on these. So thank you too, listeners, for listening. Let's meet back here in a couple of weeks. Or if you're binging, let's meet back here right now. You never know. All right. See you next time.